It seems today we have become so polarized, especially around political issues and social issues, as we all seem to retreat into our own social media echo chambers that feed us things that we believe in and really help us get to these polar extremes because we don't really see things that aren't in alignment with what we believe. And it is so hard to have meaningful conversations because oftentimes we are extremely passionate on opposite ends from pretty much everybody. It feels so difficult to have those kinds of conversations. However, having those conversations are really important. Just like we talked about in the previous video, diversity is a huge strength, especially diversity of ideas. And we really need to make sure we can have those meaningful conversations so we can have an exchange of thoughts around different ideas. So how do you do that? So imagine a world where every person can passionately express their opinion without intentionally attacking or offending someone else, and able to still hear a different opinion than their own with an open mind. Imagine a world like that, and think about how that one skill would change our family lives, our classrooms, our hallways, our communities, and our world. Well, this ability is a skill, and it's based on a set of norms. But the good thing is the skills and norms I'm going to put together right now are already on a foundation of skills that we've already taught in previous videos. So let me tell you a little story. So my best friend from high school, who I've been best friends with now for 35 years, not too long ago, we found ourselves on opposite ends of a very divisive social issue. And we generally like to talk about things like this, and it really became a struggle for us. Well, just before COVID hit, I was on a trip, and I had scheduled an opportunity to hang out with my buddy. And so he and I got together for the weekend. We had plans to eat barbecue and play disc golf and just hang out and visit. That's what we like to do. And at the very first night, in the opening dinner, he started with a conversation, and he opened with a very hurtful and offensive comment around that social issue. And I immediately started to lose control and flip my lid, and I could feel that happening. And so I said, hey, I need a break. And I got up from the table and went for a walk. And I came back in a few minutes when I had calmed down. As soon as I sat down, he said, I'm really sorry. I shouldn't have said that. That was taking it too far. How about we just won't talk about any social issues this weekend so we don't have that problem again? And at first, I was like, yeah, that sounds pretty good. We're eating barbecue, and I'm fine with that. But then I thought, if I can't have this conversation with my best friend of 35 years, then who could ever have this kind of conversation? So I told him, I said, listen, in my class, I teach a set of norms on how to have challenging conversations, and it works really well with my students. Would you be interested in giving those a try? And he was open-minded. He said, sure, let's give it a try. Maybe we could keep talking. And I said, great. So I taught him the norms, and these are the norms. The first norm is equity of voice. What that means is the conversation is going to go back and forth like a tennis match. One person is not going to make 6 or 7 points. They're going to make 1 point, and then the other person gets to make a point. So that way there is equal airtime between the two speakers. That's number one. Number two is don't yuck their yum. Don't yuck their yum means that you don't attack their point of view, but rather build your point of view up. There's 2 ways to have the tallest building in town. You can build yours up or tear other people's building down. Instead of putting people on the defensive, I want you to really build your point up without necessarily attacking them. Because when someone feels attacked, they have a hard time listening. The third is to acknowledge knowledge. Acknowledge knowledge means that when the other person makes a good point, even though it doesn't necessarily change your mind, you're gonna say, that's a that really made me think. Something that makes them feel validated for making a logical point. Again, it doesn't change your mind, it's just acknowledging the point that they're making. The fourth is to regulate and then debate. Regulate and then debate means that you're going to calm down when you start to lose it to make sure that you don't end up in a red light brain trying to have a discussion. Remember from the previous videos, we can't solve a problem with a red light brain. We can only create problems with a red light brain. And 2 red light brains are nuclear. So what I want to do is when I feel myself starting to simmer, I want to be able to calm down and maintain control. And if I lose it, or I can see the person I'm having the discussion with lose it, we need a timeout and let's walk it out, and maybe we'll come back and revisit later. But that's the fourth step. The fifth key, and probably the most important key, is to listen first to hear and then to respond. Too often in an argument, the two people aren't listening to each other at all. They're just waiting for the other person to stop talking so they can zap them with what they were planning. It's so important that you actually listen to the other person in order to have a real discussion, an exchange of ideas. And so in order to make this one happen, one of the big things that we do, like a rule, is that before you can speak, you have to summarize what the person before you just said. And my buddy and I even added a little piece to that. We had to give a thumbs up to say, hey, you got it, before you could make your point. So, these strategies and norms have been so helpful for so many of my students, and I mean that, for years and years and years. Not just in class to have meaningful discussions, but at home and in the community. I mean, really, these are great skills. The punchline is what happened with my buddy and I. The rest of the weekend, after we set up those norms, all we talked about were social issues. We talked about them while we were eating barbecue, while we were playing disc golf, and while we were hanging out, and we had a great time. And it was no big deal to manage it. Now, did he change my mind? Not so much. Did I learn from him? Of course, and he learned from me. However, what did happen is I stopped demonizing the viewpoint from his side, and he stopped demonizing the viewpoint from my side, and enabled us to be a lot more comfortable with the whole topic. So, give this a try. These are powerful skills. Try them at your home, try them in your school, try them in your community. Imagine the kind of peaceful world we could build with the skills of being able to passionately express yourself and do it in a way where you can hear the other person and not get offended. Give it a try. I'll see you in the next video.